I have a stepdaughter, Rose, and a bio daughter, Lily. Lily's dad is in the picture, and Rose's mom is somewhat in the picture, but unfortunately is an A and has some mental health issues and will not be at the wedding and could only see her occasionally with supervision growing up. Rose never really accepted me, and that's okay. We didn't push her. I don't dislike Rose or anything, but there isn't much of a relationship. Rose and Lily dislike each other, but are civil. Lily got married a year ago, and my husband and I gave her a certain amount of money, and her dad gave her the same. We had the same amount set aside for Rose, so that does mean Rose would get half of what Lily got. Also, Rose knows what Lily got in total, because it was brought up in front of her, which I know was a mistake, but she stayed with us for like a week waiting for her house to be ready, and it seemed weird to kick her out of the room. Anyway, we told Rose recently that we'd be contributing, and she made a face. My husband said that he knows it's half of what Lily got, but Lily's dad paid the other half. Rose said it was fine, and then a couple minutes later said we could keep it. My husband told her no, she could take it, and if she wants to pay, she can pay what it doesn't cover. Rose got annoyed and said she doesn't want it and leave her alone. Rose will not talk about it and is mostly ignoring us. Rose said she's paying for it herself, but I heard from someone the groom's mother's paying now and said she'd top what Lily got. Last time we saw Rose, my husband tried to talk about it again, but her fiancé snapped at us to leave her alone, and he makes enough money to buy whatever she wants. My husband is beside himself and asked if I consider doubling the money to make it even. I said no. We could do it, but it would be a huge amount to us and more than I'm willing to spend. It does suck, but at the end of the day, life isn't fair, and Rose and Lily have two different situations. My husband is annoyed and says I'm being cold, but he gets it, it's our money, and I'm standing firm on no. Not the a-hole. You were contributing the same amount to her wedding as you did for your bio daughter's wedding. The reason your daughter had more is because of her father. Expecting you to contribute the same amount to both girls from you is the only way it would be fair. Edited to add, because I keep getting a lot of flack in replies for this, but it is only in reply to one of the other commenters. I never called Rose the a-hole. OP's husband seems to be the one causing the drama of both wanting to raise the amount of money, calling his wife cold, and trying to force that onto his daughter. I think OP is not the a-hole because she asked if she was because she wouldn't agree to raise the amount to give. I don't think Rose is an a-hole either for telling them they don't need the money either. The one who seems to be causing the drama is the father. If he's being an a-hole by trying to harass his daughter into taking the money and being rude to OP because she wouldn't agree to more. Not the a-hole. You contributed the same amount to both weddings. How is that not fair? It's unfortunate that Rose doesn't have another parent to help contribute, but maybe her future spouse's family can kick some in too. Not the a-hole. The expectation that parents pay for their children's weddings is so bizarre to me. We've never once had either side offer to give us money, and I have never expected it. We're adults. It's our choice whether or not to blow a large amount of cash on what's essentially a party. If a parent does contribute, it's a gift. It isn't some sort of obligation or competition or shopping list. Your stepdaughter's attitude really sucks. I, female, American 37, met my fiancé, male, 46, Canadian Lebanese, 3 years ago. He has a 23-year-old daughter, Najwa. She was heavily against her parents separating, which I had nothing to do with, cause I met him 2 years after the separation. Najwa and I seemed to be doing pretty good getting along at first, but then she started doing things like damaging my car and legal documentations. She damaged my passport to prevent me from traveling with her dad and threw away my dog's food. Her excuse was always that her mom told her to do those things, and she was pressured by her. I did my best to let things go, and she stopped, and we sort of started getting along again until her dad and I announced our marriage date. She literally angrily screamed at us at dinner table, but the next minute said congratulations with a huge smile on her face. Her own 34-year-old Lebanese-Canadian boyfriend called her nuts. She came over to her dad's house while I was out and found my wedding dress. I've never been married before. This is my first experience ever, and I was overjoyed with the dress and ruined it with paint. Literal wall paint she brought with her. She wasn't there when I got home, but the door cam revealed everything. I had a very negative reaction. I confronted her, and she still denied. I made a police report, but got talked into letting it go since her boyfriend paid for the dress. Everything was expected to go back to normal, but I was done with her. She didn't even apologize, and am now discussing filing for a restraining order against her, cause this was the last straw. Her dad found out about the potential restraining order and disagreed completely, and said I went over the top by even considering it. But she's an adult, and she ruined hundreds worth of dollars, and she should face the consequences. Where does it stop? He insisted I let it go because he wants her at our wedding, and a restraining order will prevent her from being there. He said I already got paid for the dress, and he'll get her to apologize if I want it, but I still refused. He told me to at least wait until after the wedding, then do whatever, cause he really wants Najwa there, and called me cruel to dismiss how important that is for him. It got too much for me, and I told him I could have made things worse and had her charged, but I just want her to stay away and asked him to respect my decision. He said I was unreasonable to think he'd support me in this, and begged that I reconsider cause this will ruin his relationship with her forever. I feel like morally I could be wrong since she is my stepdaughter, and we are family. I think this might ruin the relationship between us, her dad, and my in-laws, who are begging me not to do this. Edited to add, my fiancé has always been supportive of me and helped me so much while struggling, and he's unlike the family. He's kind and understanding. Do not marry this man. He is unavailable. Not the a-hole OP, but hopefully you will take this as the enormous wake-up call that it is. If this is what jealous Najwa does to your wedding dress, what is she going to do if you have a child? The fact your fiancé is taking this stance is your opportunity to get the hell away from this situation. Not the a-hole. This is a hill to die on. Only one of you are coming to the wedding, his daughter or you. She made it clear she will ruin the wedding. He will always take her side. Here's some context. I, 38 female, married my 49 male husband when I was 24 years old. At the time, I already had a 7-year-old daughter, and I'd been a teen mom by myself for a long time. We'd met through our daughter's school because he had an 8-year-old daughter from a failed marriage that he was raising on his own. We got married fairly quickly at a big ceremony where I used my savings to get a beautiful wedding dress. I was thrilled to finally have a dad for my daughter. My daughter, Lena, and my stepdaughter, Maria, are both my children. Maria's mom had moved 4 states over when she was little and had no contact since, so it was easy for us to bond since I was the only mother she knew. The girls were treated the same way, and nobody even realized that they weren't biological sisters. In fact, we had an ongoing joke that they were fraternal twins. Maria got engaged to her high school boyfriend at 18, although both of them decided to wait to get married for a few years until they had decent jobs or were halfway through college. 2 years later, Lena got engaged too. I'd originally saved my wedding dress for Lena, but to my surprise, both girls ended up wanting the dress. I refused to give it to one or the other, but it wasn't a problem, as they decided that Maria would use it first at her wedding, since she had been the first to get engaged. Lena would use it second, because she didn't plan on getting married soon and because she was a thicker girl than her sister, so it would have to be altered. A few months after her engagement, Lena and her fiancé were hit by a drunk driver. Her fiancé survived. Lena didn't. Maria and I grew apart during this time. The grief was unimaginable, and I couldn't eat or sleep properly for weeks. It was my own depression that made us lose our relationship, because I pushed her and my husband away. I'm doing better now. Maria had pushed back the wedding when her sister died. Recently, though, she rescheduled and everything seemed to be back on track. With the wedding date getting closer, Maria began to ask about my dress. But I couldn't imagine her wearing it, knowing that Lena never would. It felt like a betrayal to Lena to let someone else wear my dress. So I gently told her that I would pay for any dress she wanted and would take her shopping on a special mother-daughter trip. Maria was upset, insisting that she wanted to wear her mom's dress and that I had promised it to her before this happened, so she should get to use it. Things got heated, and she had the nerve to ask if I'd have let Lena still use the dress if she had been the one to die. I was so upset and shocked that I couldn't answer, and she left. Later, I tried to explain that I couldn't imagine letting Maria use the dress when her sister couldn't. Maria is extremely upset and won't speak to me. And my husband tells me I'm being the a-hole, and that Maria is my daughter too, and is alive, and should get to use the dress. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Look at the words you used. Maria is your daughter, and even in your post you call her someone else, and then ask her about special mother-daughter trip. It seems like Maria has learned an important lesson about love here. You don't feel like she is your child, even though you have said the words for 14 years. You pushed her away at a time where had she been your biological child, you would have embraced her. I know it sounds harsh, but you have allowed your grief to ruin your relationship with the young woman you state as your child. Treat her like she is your child then. If she were your biological daughter, you would allow her to wear the dress. You're the a-hole, not just to Maria, but yourself. You've lost Lena, a profound and horrific loss. Now you are using that grief as a thorny blanket, actively damaging your relationships with your surviving family. There's a point where grief and how we deal with it is a choice. Do you think Lena would be proud of you, seeing you use your grief to wound her sister? You've lost one daughter, and you're losing the second, but with the second, it's your choice to lose her. Decide very quickly if you want to live with that. Unpopular opinion, but not the a-hole. I think it's perfectly reasonable to not have Maria wear the dress. OP wanted to see both daughters in the dress, and by having only one wear it, it will surely bring up the idea that Lena will never have the opportunity to wear it. I think Maria is the a-hole for getting upset at her mother over a garment, and subtly implying that she's less of a daughter to OP than Lena. I'm getting married in 3 months, and I've sent out the invitations. In the invites and emails I've sent to my guests, I've only requested of people to avoid wearing white, for obvious reasons, and emerald green, bridesmaid's dress color. I've also asked people to RSVP until a certain date, or else I wouldn't include them in the reception dinner, since price per person is very expensive, so I don't want to pay for people who won't show up at all. Basically, those 2 rules. Nothing else. Kids are invited, families are invited, and I couldn't care less about what my guests choose to wear, except for those 2 colors I mentioned above. For context about my sister-in-law, she's my fiance's sister. We have an okay relationship, not extremely friendly, but we don't hate each other either, and we get along. During my fiance's birthday celebration, some friends and I were chatting about the wedding, and they were telling me how they're surprised how chill I am about the wedding rules, and how it's refreshing to go to a wedding where they don't feel like they're walking on eggshells. I said that this is not me at all, and I just want my guests to have fun as well, so I don't want to put many limitations. The girlfriend of one of my fiance's friends also showed me the dress she's thinking of wearing to our wedding, and wanted my approval on whether it's acceptable, or I believe she'd overshadow me. It's a yellow dress that's on the sexy and revealing side, but I honestly loved it, and I told her to indeed go ahead and wear it. I told her I'm the bride. It's not easy to overshadow the bride, and if someone does, well, sucks for me, but it's really not that deep. I didn't say it in order to shade my sister-in-law, but she took offense to everything I said and called me a pretentious a-hole. The reason she took offense is because she had multiple rules on her wedding, child-free, strict dress code, and all that. We abided by those rules back then, because her wedding, her rules, of course. I never intended to offend her. I was just stating my own rules and mindset behind all my organization. She called me out and said I enjoyed subtly shading her. She called me a snake and told me that if I have to say something, I should say it to her face. She and her husband left the party. My mother-in-law told me that sister-in-law overreacted indeed, but I'm also at fault because I flaunted how chill and different I am and rubbed it in her face to make her feel bad about her own wedding. My fiancé said I did nothing wrong, and sister-in-law will grow up and get over it. Could I be the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law called you a snake when all you were doing was saying a bunch of rules for your guests isn't your style. Sounds like narcissistic behavior to me. Not the a-hole. As you've told it, it doesn't sound like you mentioned her wedding at all. Sounds like she may be insecure about her wedding rules. Maybe someone else has mentioned it to her. Not the a-hole. Sounds like she's conscious of how uptight she was and is taking your chill as a dig at her. Definitely sounds like a her problem, not a you problem. I, 28 female, am engaged to Mike, male 44. He's put me totally in charge of wedding planning while he plans a honeymoon that, according to him, is very elaborate and thoughtful. He has a daughter, 16 female, Leanne, who hates me. Mike was separated from his wife when we first met on a dating app, and apparently they had gotten back together once after the separation, so she thinks I came between them reuniting again. So she uses that as a reason to treat me like garbage. When I was pregnant, she told me she hoped I would miscarry, and she would tell all her friends I was a homewrecker and that my baby was a demon spawn. Anyway, when Mike asked me to add her to the wedding party as a bridesmaid to show us becoming family, I told him, duck no, and he got incredibly angry. He says that it's pathetic that I'm beefing with a teenager and that I'm being selfish. I would never try to keep Leanne from her father's big day, but it's also my big day, and I should be happy and comfortable. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. Mike, who is substantially older than you and should be more mature, isn't parenting his daughter well. You're closer in age to the daughter, which might explain your extraordinarily childish behavior to her. That's on you. This whole situation is doomed, like Titanic doomed. At least postpone the wedding until you can all get some counseling. She is 16 years old. I won't deny that she's got issues, but you lowering yourself to her level with your duck nose is not going to help matters. You are the grown-up in this relationship. Also, your fiancé is an absolute idiot if he thinks her being in the wedding is going to fix things. So, I guess everyone sucks here. I agree with everyone who has said that you need to get yourself, your fiancé, and your stepdaughter into therapy and sort this crap out before you move ahead with wedding plans. You're the a-hole. Not for this, but you're the a-hole for being involved with someone and agreeing to marry them if you can't get along with their child. Leanne is not going anywhere. She is going to be Mike's daughter, always. If you can't get along with her, you have no business marrying Mike. She said some horrible, crappy things, but she is a teenager. That is what they do. You are an adult. What do you think will happen when you and Mike get married? Oh, it's only a few years, then she'll be an adult? She'll be at her mom's most of the time anyway. No, she's part of the package. Maybe you tried really hard to get along with her, and maybe it's not your fault at all. But if you two have such animosity that the idea of her being your bridesmaid repulses you, don't marry her dad.